Hey, Lisa, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Jill. I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah, this is nice to have you. It'll be a nice conversation.
Good. I'm
But
really
I
looking
think it'll
forward to
be
it.
helpful. I think it'll be helpful to people, which is why I wanted to have you on because it's kind of like, as a business owner, you talk about all this stuff that you do, and it's just kind of nice for someone to get a real life glimpse into it. So that's why I wanted to do this, which I think is great.
Yeah, I'm looking
Um,
forward to sharing my story with your listeners.
I think so too. I think it's good. So let's start with like your story about your journey of like your family deciding to even move to the suburbs, right?
Yeah,
And how
that's
you
right.
went about searching, for the right town and where to go. And then we'll kind of get into it from there.
Okay, yeah, great. We were like many families living in New York City and hit with the pandemic, trying to think about what next looked like. We have one child, and at the time, she was getting ready to go into kindergarten. And that was a big transition and, frankly, a big decision. Do we stay in New York and go through potentially a private school application process? Or was it time to make a move? So it was a little interesting because right as the pandemic hit, we had started exploring homes in Connecticut. And Westport was one of the towns, and we had rented a town here for a summer, rented a house here, sorry, in Westport for a summer, and really, frankly, fell in love with Westport. We tried to find a house quickly. That didn't happen, of course, given the pandemic. And so had to pivot for a few months while we did the research and did the looking until we finally found our home, which is the home we live in today. So there was a lot of research. There was a lot of tears. Frankly, we had lost out on many homes that we thought were our dream home um, to being outbid, frankly. And that was also very much the story for many people looking for a home during that pandemic time. So, anyway, it's funny how life works out because we've ended up in a home that, frankly, I couldn't imagine living anywhere else. And none of the homes that I also thought were my dream home along the journey would have stacked up to where we are today. So it all worked out, and we've been here now for a few years, and we just love it. We've totally made the right decision and feel so lucky.
Yeah, and isn't it funny? I always say, like, in the end, it always works out how it's supposed to. And I do think when you're buying a home, at least I found too, I find it a very emotional experience. And then you guys who were buying it during COVID, there was such pressure. And like you said, like you could easily fall in love with a house and not get it over and over again. It was such a tough time. But I think you have an important message. Like, even under those circumstances, you wound up in the house that was right for you. Like I do really feel like it wasn't meant to be with the other ones for whatever reason.
That's
And
right.
but it was such a high pressure environment to have to buy a house that my hearts really went out to all my clients because they were foregoing inspections and then finding like things after that they didn't anticipate, and it was a lot. But I think that, I mean, you guys got such a great house and like you're settled now, and I think like it's like it was all worth it in the end.
Yeah, I agree. I couldn't agree more. Everything in life happens for a reason, and there were reasons why the other homes didn't work out and why we are where we are right now. So yes, I feel very lucky and fortunate.
It's all good. It's all good. What do you think was the most overwhelming thing to you about moving to the suburbs and having a home, being a homeowner here in the suburbs? Did you have like a couple overriding things that were like, oh gosh, this is either stressful or overwhelming?
I mean, it's so overwhelming, right? Like the not only do you have to, especially if you're moving from an apartment style home to a larger home, like you have to think about what am I going to put in this home? And it's
Right.
probably not realistic to think that all the items I had in my old home are actually going to work in the new home. So
Yeah.
there's that. But on top of that, I mean, it's a huge transition, especially if you have children and you're moving your life. You think about, am I going to like the community? Am I going to make friends? Is my child or
Mhm.
children going to be happy there? So you're thinking about the logistics of your home, and then you're also thinking about this major life move and how is this all going to work out. But
Right.
frankly, when you purchase a home, in my experience now, when you purchase a home and you're thinking about making this big move, you want it, and it really is. I mean, I'm not planning on going anywhere anytime soon. And so
Right.
when we were thinking about what we wanted this house to look and feel like, we were thinking about for the long term. And we wanted to make sure that the choices we were making were the right ones. And they
Mhm.
were for not just the near future, but for the longer term future too. And that was a lot of pressure, frankly.
It was, but I will say I felt you guys were very, very thoughtful, like, not that other people weren't, but you guys really were very intentional and thoughtful, and, that's a good thing because you saw the long road. Because there are some people that moved and, like, they were just feeling like, "I just have to be out of the city," because of this
Yeah.
pandemic, and as long as I get out, I'll be fine, and they didn't think much beyond that, and for some people, to be honest, it didn't work out great. Like, there are a handful of people that came to the suburbs, and once the city opened back up, in fact, a very close friend of my husband's this happened to, they got like a nice home here and whatever, and they just couldn't get in the groove of like suburban
Yeah.
living, like caring for the home, the plowing, everything. And they moved back to the city, but when they were able. So,
Mhm.
it is an adjustment. Many, many people like yourself, however, have moved here and absolutely love it and are so
Yeah.
glad.
Yeah.
So,
I agree. I think I was less ready compared to my husband. He had been ready way before we had even made the move. I was still hanging on to my city lifestyle, but frankly, I mean, looking back, like I understood why, but it really made sense for our family, frankly, and our daughter. And like she's thriving and she's so happy here. And the same for us. Like we've built a new life here. And the
yeah.
lifestyle that it has given us, especially Westport being close to the water, you really are part of a year-round beach community here, which if you're someone who thrives on being near water, I am one of those people. This is like a dream.
Yeah,
So,
it really is. It kinda gives you
yeah,
the best choice, and our proximity to the city is close enough
that's right.
that if you have to be in there for work or pleasure, we're close enough. It's a train ride, a car
Totally.
ride, whatever. Yeah.
Yes,
We do
which
have the
is the
best
case
we
for
have the
me.
best of both worlds here.
We
So,
have
I
the
mean,
best of both worlds. Yep.
yeah, and I always felt that way when I first looked at this area too. So, I mean, it's pretty cool. So, did you guys know I mean, I'll set this up for the audience a little bit.
Mm.
You guys did hire a contractor right away. By the time you called me, that was well underway. Did you think you would need a help from the designer, or were you and Neil thinking, well, we've got this contractor, we know like some of these remodeling things we're doing in the house, and then like we've kind of got it from here? Or did you feel like we have the contractor, we're gonna have to figure out other help? I'm just curious.
No, I mean, so listen, I mean, Neil is unique. He had an eye for design in terms of the contracting piece, and there were definitely elements of this house that needed gut renovation. We did not gut the whole house, but we redid the kitchen. We added on an extra bathroom, a laundry room. So kind of like minor in terms of a gut, but it was enough. And then there was a lot of cosmetic, like repainting, redoing the floors. It was a big enough job.
Yeah.
He was focused on that. I was thinking more practically, like, we need furniture in this house. And what do we want this house to look like? And there are like 10 rooms that we have to decorate. And I mean, I was so overwhelmed. Both of us work full time.
Mhm.
I said to him, we need a designer. We need to hire somebody who can help us. And I started doing the research on that piece. And then I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to cost a lot of money to
Yeah.
hire a designer who's going to come in and do this whole house from top to bottom. And I'm sure it's going to look great. But frankly, that wasn't part of our budget. And the other thing too is
Mhm.
we wanted to really be part of the decision making process of what we were going
Mhm.
to choose. And
Mhm.
we didn't want to just be pigeonholed into what a designer can offer, which is really they go and buy the furniture for you, as you know, and all of
Yeah.
the fittings. And that wasn't really what we wanted either. And so we
Yeah.
were struggling to figure out, well, what's the in between here?
Right.
So
So
that's how
when
we
you
came upon
found
you.
me and you reached
Yeah.
out to me, what made you feel like the service that I have, which is the digital service, was a fit for you?
Mm. So we knew we wanted to have some autonomy over what we wanted to buy and the
Mhm.
cadence in what and in and when we wanted to do that, right? Like
Mhm.
we knew that we didn't want to do it all at once. We wanted to
Yep.
get some of the big pieces in the door. We wanted to think about what the color schemes would be for the room and how we would pull it all together. And
Mhm.
depending on if we could do it, we would do it all at once, or maybe we would space it out over time. And
Yeah.
I think that is one of the unique things about your service,
Mhm.
frankly, is you give the guidance and you give some parameters in which to work, and you even get some of the creative juices flowing, even if you
Mhm.
feel like you, the homeowner, are not creative. That's
Mhm.
one of the things that you instilled in me, frankly, was to think outside the box
Mhm.
and to start also playing and having fun with this. Um, and that's exactly what happened, frankly. And I think
Yeah.
doing it room by room made
Yes.
it so much less stressful than this
Yes.
one big great project that, frankly, I have friends who have done it that way, where it's cost them lots and lots of money and their house is still not finished because they haven't had the budget. They got it to a certain
Yeah.
point and then it's over. And now you have an
Yeah.
unfinished, beautiful home. It's like,
Yeah.
oh my
And
God.
that would happen a lot with what I would call the full service sort of traditional business model.
Mm,
And I could be in a, or if I did complete a home, it could take, like 18 months or more. And I really, I dovetailed this service to kind of meet customers where they were so that they could say, I want to buy this and have some choices. It's like I wasn't shoving this chair down their throat.
yeah,
And you could buy it on your timeline. So it wasn't like, okay, Lisa, we're doing the 9 rooms in your house and we're starting with these 3. You and I have chosen everything and I need a check today for all of it. Right. And like,
that's right.
it gave you some flexibility where, okay, well, here's the living room, here's some choices, here's a couple different sofas, what do you think, and
Yeah,
which one, right? And it gave you time to talk to your husband and find the compromise, maybe, right? Because not everybody always agrees. So, and not just you personally, but just like everybody, right? It's just nice to have choices. It's nice to know, like, you can put it on your credit card when you want to, not me hanging over you
right.
going, you need to pay me this week for all of it, I have to
That's
order
right.
it now. That's like
That's
you're
right.
really under the gun. But one thing I want to go back to and just ask you, because you mentioned, like, when you first came and like you were looking in designers and you were like, we to do the whole thing from top to bottom, it would be
Mhm.
beautiful, but it's a lot of money, it's an investment, and you hadn't budgeted for that. I'm curious about that. Had you budgeted for any furnishings? Not even a designer, but and I ask that only because I find a lot of people move and they've budgeted for like the paint, the floors. In your case, you knew you had some remodeling to do, but they kind
Mhm.
of forget that they need furniture. And especially
I
coming from the city, people are either coming with really not enough or a lot of stuff they don't want to use. And I'm just
That's right.
curious if it crosses at all,
Your
because
brain?
as
Yeah,
designers, we talk to people and are like, part of the problem is they haven't budgeted or planned for it.
it's
And I
right.
always
I
say
think
to
that's right.
customers, that's where you need to start for anyone to be able to come in and help you. Even if you're doing a DIY, you have to.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think we thought about like the big pieces of furniture and kind of put like some guesstimates of like, all right, this is probably how much a couch at Pottery Barn cost, and
Got it.
we'll need
Okay.
we'll need some lamps and we'll need like a side table. But like, we didn't know. We knew we would have to spend money on furnishings, but like we were really honestly on that part, both of us were clueless. We really had no clue.
Yeah.
And your service really helped us think that through, frankly,
Right.
and get a good understanding of what things really do cost, and also how you can mix, like maybe you want to go higher end on certain things because it's worth it. And
Yeah.
then, there's ways that you can save on some additional items in the room. Like you don't have to go high end on everything. And there's
Correct.
ways to cut corners.
And it can still, but once it's all together, it looks high end,
It looks high end. That's right.
And what I think is interesting too is, even though we did this digital service and we did room by room, you basically signed on for like all 9 rooms at once.
I
So you
did.
signed, and we just met every week and did a room. And
That's
then
right.
this way you had the plan and then you had time to flush out what rooms, and you had agency over saying to me, let's start with these rooms, like you could I would say, let's prioritize, where do you want to start? But we still did the whole house that way, is just what I
That's
wanted
right.
to point out. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
no, that's right. We did. I, yes, we knew we had a whole house to furnish. We did the whole package with you in terms of all the rooms, and we just chipped away at it, and it
Yeah.
worked. And then we had like regular meetings with each other, and you were so kind to also entertain the questions that were coming up in between. Like, even
Yep.
some of the questions that had come up with the contractor where we were making some decisions and we were like, wait, Jill might actually be able to help us with this. You were able to
Right.
jump in and provide us another view or a decision point. So that was also really, really useful to have you for
Yeah,
that.
that was nice. So you can yeah, you can sort of marry it together if those 2 things are happening at once, and sometimes they are.
Yeah,
And it doesn't have to be that you're working with a contractor that I work with. I can still help. I can look at a plan, look at a space and say, "Yeah, here's what you should do," you
that's
know?
right.
So
Yeah.
I think that was nice. Like, you knew you had me to call kind of as, like,
Yes.
for
Totally.
advice.
And remember the living room, like you helped us so many times with I don't know if you remember this, but I do, about how we were going to position the sofa in
Yeah.
this living room that had like
Yep.
such an, and we got there in the end. Like that was probably one of the biggest challenges if I think back on the project where we were like, oh gosh, how is this going to look? But that room ended up turning out awesome. So
Yeah,
thanks
and it
to
was
your,
tricky,
it was
but
tricky.
we figured out, like, okay, what are the possibilities? What are the choices? And
Yeah.
then what's the best choice for our family and flow and all of that. Yeah, I remember that
Yeah.
was a tricky space.
That was
It's
tricky.
funny,
Yeah.
people buy these homes with a lot of space, and yet you get into some of these rooms, and there's not that much space as far as your choices of placement, and it happens all the time, so I'm really
Yeah.
used to it.
Yeah.
And it happens in the biggest of homes and the smallest of homes, like, it doesn't matter, it's just how the
Mm,
space is designed.
yeah. Yep.
Um, yeah. All right, let me check my notes 1 second, sorry. Okay. Oh, what I wanted to mention too was you had when we started, you said and you sent them to me, you're like, here's some things that we have and we'd like to incorporate. Or if there's some that we can't incorporate, let me know. But here's what
Hmm.
we have. And so I
Yep.
had pictures of items. And so as I did your rooms, I would look at first, okay, what does Lisa have
Yes.
that we could use? And
Yep.
sometimes it would be, okay, well, if we can't use it in this room, could we put it in that room? Right.
Yep.
So I think that was nice too, just because people tend to want to just sort of ditch everything because they're getting a new house. But
Yeah.
you'd be surprised some stuff can work. And if it can work, it's going to help you on your budget, obviously, because it's going to be
Huge.
less things you have to buy.
Yeah, that's right. Like our old, it was a really nice um big restoration hardware sofa that we had in our living room for years.
Yeah.
And our daughter has this enormous bedroom that is sort of functions as a play space for her too. And it'll be a place where she'll be able to go with friends as she gets older. And like this huge 8 foot long restoration couch is now in her room as like
Right.
another place, right? And we had it slip covered so like we were able to refresh it. And we did the same with 2 big swivel chairs that we had, like again, expensive pieces of furniture in our living room, and they're now in our sitting room off of our bedroom, and we've just had them recovered, and
Hmm.
like they look brand new and they look awesome in the space. And so there are definitely
Right.
other pieces that we worked with that we
Right.
were able to repurpose in our house here. And there was some stuff that I sold on Facebook Marketplace or I donated, and that was fine too. Some of those items, it was time for them to go. But for some of the bigger pieces that we had, I was really pleased that we were able to make it work in our current home here.
Yeah, because those are big pieces. Those are like the investment pieces. So it was
Yeah,
kind of nice to be able to utilize some of that, and not saying, okay, now we have to buy a whole other thing of upholstered seating for here. We can use what we have and maybe recover it, whatever. So
that's
yeah,
right.
I thought that was good too. Um, so I wanted to know if you like could put it sort of in a capsule if you looked at like the contrast between how did you feel before you hired me and how did you feel once you hired me?
Yeah.
Like,
Like,
even if there was a 1 word or a 2 word for the before and after, I'm just
oh my
curious.
God. Well, overwhelmed before, of course. And then during and after, like I would say relief.
Yep.
I would say like you inspired fun.
Mhm.
You gave me a hobby that I didn't even know could exist for myself. I had so much fun with the rooms. And the thing about Pinterest, as you know, is when you put things in there, it gives you some other ideas too. And so
Yes.
I'd start like I loved that it was almost a meditation for me in terms of not thinking about work or other things happening with the house, but focusing on something that was actually fun and
Yeah.
using some creativity in there. And frankly, even now, like I am in love with how our house turned out. People come here, like our friends, family, and they are always commenting on how amazing the house is. And the question they ask me, Jill, is, did you do this yourself? Like, did you have someone help you? I'm like, well, it was a mixture. And, I explain who you are and your service, and like,
Right.
and it's kind of unique. People are intrigued by it.
Yeah.
But it couldn't have turned out any better, frankly. And we made a lot of the decisions around here and took some risks in some cases, but it all worked out. So
But I'm so happy to hear you had fun because I've been saying for years, and it's like, I don't mean it to be cliche, but a lot of people hire a designer like in the
mm,
first scenario you described, and they're
mm-hmm.
stressed out.
Yeah.
And they're stressed because like there's a lot of money going out the door every week. And like you said, they're kind of like maybe feeling a little forced into certain decisions, maybe not others. And
Mm-hmm.
they might be a little regretful, whatever. And like they're just not having fun. And I
Fun.
saw that for years and I thought, this is not how it should be. This is not how a
Mm,
client experience should be. You should have fun decorating your home. You should have fun like picking out a wallpaper that makes you smile, decorating your daughter's room so she feels happy with friends. That should be a joyful thing in our life, you know?
that's right.
And so many clients, whether they be mine or others, you'd hear stories and they were so miserable. And I thought, this is the last thing on earth, picking out sofas, that anyone should feel miserable about. We got plenty of other things going on in this world to feel miserable about. This is
Totally.
the thing you need to find some joy with. So I'm really so glad to hear that, not only did the house turn out like so you feel happy, that's critical, but that you actually had some fun and kind of tapped into, because we talk about this a lot too, you sort of tapped into a side of you didn't really honor
Yeah.
as much before. And now you're like, yeah, I kind of have this creative flair and I can kind of do some of these things.
That's right. I think you nailed it. Like, and I think if we had gone down the route of a traditional design house, hiring someone to come in and do it, I don't think we would have been as happy or as fulfilled. I mean,
Yeah.
I think having the ability to make the choices and in our own time was critical. And I think that's one of the many things about your service, that it gives you the opportunity to do. And most importantly, have fun. I agree with you. It shouldn't be stressful. It should be
It should not
enjoyable.
be. Yeah.
No, and you should look at and say, "Oh my gosh, I did this." Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I had some assistance and some guidance, but like, you, the person in the house, are the one ultimately that pulled it together. And I think
Yes.
it's a pretty big celebration at the end, for
So when
sure.
you would get my toolkit for each room, which is like the plan
Yeah.
for each room, did
Mm.
a part of you get it and feel like, oh, okay, or you tell me, I don't want to put words in your
Yeah.
mouth, but if you would get, let's say you're working on a room, I send you the toolkit, which includes, your mood boards and some specs
Mhm.
and shopping links. Did you sort of feel like we can achieve
It
this? We can make
resonated.
this
Yeah.
look okay.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. Like,
Yeah.
and I loved, because we used you to help us with some of the colors in the room. Like,
Mm.
we painted a lot of wood. We have a lot of wood in our home. Like, in my office, it's a fully paneled wood wall
Yeah,
that
and we did the
was
Hail
a
Navy,
state of
which is
we
yeah.
did hail neat. I mean, like, I would have never picked that. Plus the carpet that we did with it.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
it was so cool. And then even in Neil's office, like, again, more wood, like bookshelves, and we chose for him this like really deep, rich gray color. I would have
Yeah.
never in a million years had selected that color, and
Right.
it looks awesome in there. Like, so
Yeah.
all of these things, like, and when you would send through those mood boards, I'd be like, oh, that's awesome. Like,
Yeah.
and then I think in the second breath, I'd be like, I'd never be able to do that by myself. Like, I would have never thought about that in that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
And then
No,
you
that's
start,
good.
like, creativity starts.
And the mood boards, I think what's good too about the toolkit, like you said, you can take it and put your own twist on it.
Yeah,
Some people need the very literal, like, okay, here it is. And they can literally just click and shop the mood board and
that's
get the
right.
room that way, But like you, as you said, you were sort of tapping into some of your creativity. And we all have it, by the way. I preach this all the time. All of us have it. It's just a matter of tapping into it and allowing
Yeah,
yourself to. And I
yeah,
encourage people to do it because that's what makes your home personal. So
yeah,
it's like you can take what I've done and then put your personal twist on it, which is what you and Neil did. And
yeah.
that's really the ultimate way to have a curated home.
Yeah,
So I love
I
that.
think that's right. I think that's
Totally
right.
love that. Um, so for people that say, well, and the thing is that it was COVID, but it was like a year, it was 2021, I want to say, when we worked together. So some things were starting to open up, I think.
Yeah.
Um, but we did work digital and I still work digital. I mean, the digital service for me came about before COVID. And what's weird is it
Mm,
just was ready to launch right before COVID hit, which was really
lucky.
weird.
That is so
But
weird.
it's still, I mean, I think we've done over 200 rooms. It's like ridiculous. Yeah, it's amazing. Um,
I'm not surprised.
so for people that say, well, if the designer can't be in the space, I don't know how they can design my home.
Right.
What would
Well,
you say?
yeah, I mean, first of all, the first thing that you ask for is the room plan with all the dimensions.
Mhm.
So you hadn't been to our home,
Right.
actually, like
Until after I came
until
to you.
after when it was like almost fully done at that point. I think it was
Yes.
done,
That's
right?
when I came over. Mhm.
So utilizing pictures of the home based on the real estate listing, right? So
Mhm.
that was one way, plus the floor plans.
Mhm.
You were able to get a feel, I think, for the room. And there were a couple of occasions where I think like Neil was here, like dealing with some of the construction, and maybe we like FaceTimed you or whatever. But like
Yeah.
you physically having to be here, I think was not necessary based
Yeah.
on what you had produced in the end. I think the real important piece are the dimensions, right? Like that
Yeah.
is critical. You need to know. And then there's the like look and feel in the space, right? So that comes with just pictures if you really need them, but frankly,
Yep.
I'm not sure that you do. Like
No, so it's funny, I say to people like, and I'm not discounting how they feel, but that's their discomfort level. I know how to do it, I can do it. Like, I wouldn't have this service if I couldn't execute it properly. But people
mm,
have to understand when you're in design school, every room we created is a room we were never in. And people
mhm.
don't
Good
realize that,
point.
okay?
Mhm.
So, for me as a designer, and if you're a trained designer and you know what you're doing, yeah, I need the dimensions, and even if they don't have some people have I help people, like, in California, I'm doing something in Palm Springs right now, I've done stuff
Wow.
all over. So, if I tell them what measurements to give me, like, how long is the room,
Mhm.
how wide is the room, where are the windows, and then a couple pictures, I can do it. Like, if I'm missing a piece, I'll tell them. Now, if you're
Yeah.
local like you, and now that things have opened up, I offer like a walkthrough service where I'll come, or an a
Mhm.
la carte service where if you want me to come a few different times, I will. But I do
Mhm.
it really more for the client. I don't need to get the job done
Right.
because I never sell anything like I couldn't accomplish, but I don't need to at all, you know?
Yeah,
And so
that makes
some people are
sense.
like, well, if you're not going to be here, I just don't know how you're going to do it. And it's like, well, don't worry how I'm going to do it because I've done it like 200
Yeah.
times now.
200 times.
Right.
Yep.
So it's like I know how to do it. But it is about the client's comfort level, which is why locally, if someone's more comfortable, I will do that. But is it actually necessary for me to achieve the room design? It's not.
Mm. Yeah, I would agree with
So,
that. I mean,
yeah.
you did 9 of our rooms
Yeah.
without being here. Only floor plans and
Exactly.
pictures,
Yeah.
and it was great.
So anyway, it's all good. So no,
Mm.
I think your story's great. It's got now you guys are so settled here and enjoying it and loving it. And that's the most important part, you know?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And it feels like a home. It feels like our home. We love it here. We often marvel, like, how did we get so lucky in this like amazing home? And it's comfortable. People come and stay and they love it here too. I mean, it's just like, I don't know. Everyone should hopefully feel this way about their home. I think it's
Yeah.
so important, right? Like
Yeah.
that feeling when you walk in the door and you're like, "Oh, I'm home and I'm
Yes.
proud of this space and I
Yes.
feel good and I feel safe in this space. I feel like I can relax now in my home." Like these are for me anyway, these are really important things and things that
Yeah.
I thrive on.
Yeah.
Um in fact, I can't function frankly properly in my life or in my work life if I'm not comfortable in my space. And so I
I'm the
feel
same.
right like I feel very lucky that the space has been curated in a way that we are able to use it and live in it
Yeah.
in how we need to. So
Yeah. I can't
yeah.
tell you, that makes me like, because my job isn't about, like, selling you wallpaper. My job is
Mhm.
about how do I put this together for them that has their signature on it, whether it's
Yeah.
you or any other client, and make you feel at home. And
Yeah.
and so, like, the biggest benefit for me is to have a client say how good their home feels. It's not
Mm.
about, like, how much wallpaper I'm selling them. That's not
That's
what I'm
right.
in business for. So I'm in
Mm.
business to take my expertise and help somebody make their home beautiful, you know?
Yeah. I
And
love
so
that. And
yeah.
after doing this, like doing this with you, I'm so envious of this job that you have because you get to do this over and over and over again. Like, it's so much fun. You have a really fun job.
Well, and honestly, this service has made it more fun because I feel like that more traditional business model, you're kinda,
Mm,
like, forcing the client into something that's not,
mm,
like, where they're at. So this whole service was thought out very carefully and very intentionally to be like, "Let's meet the clients where they are," meaning, like, the internet exists, okay?
mm.
They're gonna shop on the internet. I've been in this business a long time, like, I have accounts with over 200 vendors. I will tell you that maybe 2 of them or 3 of them I can order from for less than the internet. I mean,
Yeah.
I just quoted something the other day, and it's a vendor I've worked with for over a decade, and my price was gonna be higher than the internet
Oh,
because
wow.
they were charging me, like, a ton for freight that brought the price
Mm,
up so high that I literally texted the client, and I'm like, "Honestly,
yeah.
this website has it for less, and they're offering 15% off right now with free shipping. Just order the piece here."
Yes.
Because people don't realize too, for me to place an order, it's a lot of work. And
Yes.
it's time and whatever, and so it's like and if I can't save you money,
What's
like,
the
it's just
point?
not yeah. So
Yeah.
it's like, let's kinda get real about it, like, let's get real. I don't wanna be an order processor anyway, I wanna use
Mhm.
my design expertise to help people, so that's where it was sort of born from, and then really
Mm,
well thought out after listening, and like you said, you guys wanted some autonomy with it, both in spending, when you spent, how you spent, and what you chose, and I wanted all my clients to have that autonomy as well, and this service
yeah,
does that, so
it does. And the one last thing I'll add there, Jill, is like what I also loved, that you educated me about was there are lots of other options out there outside of just like your standard big furniture stores. Like some of the options that you shared with us, which are
Mhm.
all internet companies, like anyone could go on and buy. Like I didn't know about half of these companies and wouldn't have
Right.
even known how to search for them.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking like this is so cool because it's going to be something unique that not everybody has because it's a bit of an avant-garde website or
Correct.
the couch company that we ended up buying all of our
Yep.
couches from. I was
Yep.
like, How have I never heard about this?" So,
Yeah.
I think that was also so valuable, or some of the different, given your experience and your knowledge, brands that you've used or worked with in the past that
Mhm.
you really valued, and sharing that
Yeah.
knowledge, I think was really, really cool and
Yeah, I know the
so awesome.
marketplace really well. So it's
Yep.
funny, like, when I see something online, I immediately know if I can get a better price or not because I know the market. I've
Mhm.
done it, I've had the accounts for so long. And what I try to tell people is all the things we've been buying as designers for decades, it is basically all available online. You have to know where to shop.
You just have to know
And
where to
that's one
go.
thing that I know. So it's
Yeah.
again, that's why I would be paid for my service because I know that, right? And you pay somebody
Mm.
to get something you don't know. So that's where some of my expertise lies because I've been in the marketplace a long time. I'd go to the trade shows. I know who does what,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so yeah, that's where that stems from. But with the internet now, it's just burst open. And as a customer, and you want to use your credit card, get your points, get a better price, I don't wanna be the one to tell you you
Yeah,
can't do
can't use
that,
it.
like, it's just
Yeah.
insane to me at this point. Like, the internet's not going away. Why don't we
Mm,
work with it instead of work against it and make
that's right.
clients feel, like, bad about it? So, I just
That's
didn't
right.
wanna do that anymore, you know?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. Yeah,
And if there is
anyway, that was
something
very fun.
bespoke that we need to do, we will. Like, I had one of my first digital clients, she needed custom draperies, and
Yeah.
I had a fabric right here in my studio. I showed it to her, she fell in love with it. So I could either order the fabric or the workroom could. I told her what
Mm,
workroom to go to. She had them made up. They look stunning, and so you can also get bespoke through this service because 'cause I'll tell you,
yes,
like, what workroom or I can, help place the order through the workroom, whatever. So it really runs soup to nuts. You're not just tied into Crate and Barrel, like you said,
that's right.
you know?
Exactly, and that was also unexpected, but so welcomed, right? Going
Yeah,
so,
that's nice to know too, because
yeah,
I do try that because it really is a curated design in the end. It's not just
yeah,
like a cookie cutter, Crate and Barrel, West Elm, although we do use those brands and I'm fine
yeah,
with using them. We really infuse everything through, so it's a very bespoke design.
that's right.
Yeah,
I'd agree.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I thank you for your time. This has been
Sure.
awesome. I always love
Thank
connecting
you.
with you anyway, as you
Yeah,
know.
thank you. Thank you,
And,
Jill. It's been a real pleasure. I hope this helps your listeners, think about their design and your service. But I mean, I can't say enough good things about it. It was so fun on so many levels. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to share.
Thank you so much, and summer's coming in Westport, so we'll all be
Yeah,
ready, so I may see
that's
you
right.
out walking. All right,
Good.
I'll
I'm
talk
looking
to you
forward.
soon, Lisa. Take care.
All right. Take care, Jill.
Bye.
Bye bye.